All right, hello everyone. I am Tess McKeel. I'm with Goodwill of the Finger Lakes and the National AgrAbility Project, and I'd like to welcome you all here today. This is our AgrAbility's National Training Workshop virtual sessions and the Veterans Harvest Workshop. Today's session is one veteran's journey from PTSD to farmer. And I just have a few housekeeping items before we get started. So one, if you have not already done so, please mute your microphone and rename your screen with your first and last name. If you need closed captioning, you can find that at the bottom of your screen and click on closed captions. If you have any questions today during our session, if you could type them into the chat box, we'll monitor that and answer the questions as time allows. We are recording this session and it will be available on the National AgrAbility Project website at a later date. And at the end of this session, before you leave, if you would please watch the chat box, I will put a link in there for an evaluation. And if you would follow that link and send us an evaluation of our session today, that would be appreciated. So I am now going to pass it on to Cindy Chastain, who is the Veterans Outreach Coordinator for the National AgrAbility Project. And she's going to do some introductions and a little announcement. So Cindy?
And where are my slides? They were here. Hi, everybody. Sorry, we're just trying, there they are. No, that's not the ones. Sorry, just trying to find my slides. Welcome everybody to the first of several sessions dedicated to veterans for our webinars. And we're thrilled today to have Jeannette Lombardo actually here in the room with me she's the new executive director of the Farmer Veteran Coalition. Here's my slide and my contact information. That one right there, yeah. There we go. There's my contact information. I am an Army veteran, retiree from the Army after 30 some years. And I've been working for the AgrAbility Project for about 7 years. And again, we're thrilled to have you all here to participate in the first of our webinars for veterans. We have Sara Creech here as well, who is going to do the presentations from PTSD to farming. And she's a close personal friend of mine, so I'm thrilled to have her here as well. Next slide. Okay, here are our five webinars that you've signed up for. Hope you can participate in all of them. The next one, we'll be doing them on Tuesday afternoons through August 24th. You can see what they are here on your screen. The final one will be a panel presentation on several programs that you might be interested in that they will talk about. They're all geared towards veterans, and I think you'll get a lot out of them. So if you can't watch them in live, they will be recorded and put on our website, and I'll send that information out when they are available. So first of all, we'd like to have Jeannette Lombardo talk to you about the Farmer Veteran Coalition and what's going on with their program. And I'm going to pass that on to her, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about her first. She took over from Michael O'Gorman, that you might be familiar with, on July 1st of last year. She was raised by her Air Force veteran father. She grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania on a multi-generational family dairy farm. She spent decades in the agriculture banking industry before becoming the co-founder and chief strategic officer for Global Water Innovations Incorporated, where the company created innovative agricultural water solutions. She's also the principal for California Food and Agribusiness Advocates, with the mission of improving policy decisions for farmers in water, land use, crop protection tools, and international trade. In addition to a California EPA state appointment to the Los Angeles Water Quality Control Board and a USDA Agricultural Technical Advisory Committee for Trade appointment, she belongs to and has served on numerous agricultural association boards, including state president for California Women for Agriculture. She is well experienced in advocating for farmers and ranchers, and now will add farmer veterans to her list. So I will turn it over to Jeannette.
Okay. Well, hello there. I am here in Purdue. I flew in last night and Bill just gave me a wonderful tour of the campus. And I'm glad I was able to join you here in person today. A lot of you may know about Farmer Veteran Coalition. Thank you. We're going to go through some stats here real quick for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We currently have about 33,000 members. That includes our associate members as well as just veterans is around 30. We are split pretty much like the military with 85% male, 15% female. You can see our ethnicity breakdown and our branch of service breakdown. Army is still number one, although Navy's catching up a little bit there. 76% of our membership is post 9/11, and about 59% have a disability rating of some sort. And that is why we are really good partners with AgrAbility. Thank you. So what does Farmer Veteran Coalition do? We do a lot of career counseling, and what this looks like is basically entrepreneurial skills. We help folks do their business plans, do their crop budgets, help them gather any information that they need to secure financing. We also offer technical support through a host of partnerships we have with extension offices. We do help people analyze their water and their soil, answer questions about what they should grow, how they should grow it. We also help with benefit guidance for all our veterans through our number of our partners. We do a little bit of case management to help everyone get the most of their benefits that they can. We offer, through our AgVets grant, some apprenticeships, mentorships, and internships. And our chapters, actually, we have currently 17 that have been set up across the country, with about 23 more in formation. And we do a lot of peer-to-peer support through those chapters, where our farmers help each other with whatever hurdles that they face in their farming endeavors. We do, as I mentioned, have a lot of resource referrals to outside organizations. We offer benefit discounts through a number of corporate sponsors to our members, all for free. We have no membership fee, so we are open to every veteran that needs help and that is pursuing anything in agriculture. We do have quite a few organizational programs. The first, many of you are familiar with, which is Homegrown by Heroes. This is a labeling program that we have that allows you to sell in farmers markets and small retailers. We should be receiving this label by the end of the year. We've been partnering with the Kentucky Department of Ag. And so we'll be able to do a lot more with it here coming up in the future. So stay tuned for that. The next is our fellowship funds. We just finished our grant cycle here in February, actually Valentine's Day it ended. And we did the awards in May. And so we're collecting funds right now for next year, which will open again on January 1st. So the fellowship fund is a small fund, and as you can see, the awards range from $1,000 to $5,000. We've given over $3 million since we started the program in 2011. And since we have all types of farmers, that money is put to good use for a wide variety of crops. So we have everything from Christmas tree growers and shellfish farmers and honeybee keepers. We have every possible commodity you can think of. We get way more requests than we can fund, but we are constantly out getting more sources of funding for that. This map shows how we're structured. We've sort of changed this since I came on board last July. We've divided the country into 10 regions, which match the USDA production map. And this is really beneficial for our chapters because it's putting people that grow the same commodity that might have a same weather situation, maybe a trade issue or a commodity price issue together. And so our chapters are meeting regionally and really getting to know the other farmers that surround them. And it's been a lot of collaboration happening. So it's been a really good thing to see. And that basically explains how the chapters are building. We are having, I'm running out of time, so I'm just gonna tell you we're having 2 conferences this year. One is in November in Knoxville, Tennessee, and one is in December up in Washington in Tacoma. So please check our websites and get the information for that. We should be posting speakers here pretty soon, and the registration should be going out within the next 30 days. And that is our website. So feel free to reach out to that, or you can even contact me. I'll give you my email address. It's Jeannette, JeAnnette at farmvetco.org. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And I'm hoping I'll meet some of you at either one of our 2 conferences. Thank you very much, Cindy.
We do have one question. Kenda Woodburn said, we are in Oklahoma. How do we start a chapter?
Okay. So we actually just started a chapter in Oklahoma. So the best thing to do is to email me, and or you can even go onto our website and there's a support email. You can send it. We'll connect you with Doris and Willie, who are our 2 staff members that are over chapter development, and we'll hook you up with the small team that launched the chapter so you can get involved right from the very beginning.
I forgot to mention that if you do have questions for Jeannette or for Sara, we'll try to address them at the end if we have time. So please put them in the chat box. Next, we're going to share the screen with Sara Creech. I want to introduce Sara. She's a great friend of mine. She's the owner of Blue Yonder Organic Farm located here in Indiana. She has a 43-acre farm and raises a lot of stuff: chickens, ducks, sheep, cattle, fruits and vegetables, and she sells most of her products through the local farmers markets. She's an Air Force veteran. She served from 2004 to 2006. And when she returned from her deployment, she struggled readjusting and was diagnosed with PTSD. Today, she's going to speak about what it's like having PTSD and how farming was instrumental in her healing process and helping her find hope and passion for life again. So here is Sara.
Thank you so much, Cindy. First of all, thank you guys all for coming here and listening to this. I know sometimes these deep conversations are a little overwhelming, so bear with me. And once we get started a little bit, I'm going to start throwing up some pictures from the farm, and you can just look at those as you're listening or tune out. That's fine too. But I did just want to say thank you to Cindy and to AgrAbility for all the work that they've put into, especially outreach for veterans, but also for people with disabilities in agriculture. I have been fortunate that I met Cindy when she first came on as the veteran coordinator, and have been able to work with her, learn from her, and attend so many trainings and get so many resources from AgrAbility. And it has been a huge help in starting this farm and my farm journey. And also a huge shout out to FVC. They also started not too long before I did. So they were there the entire time I started. There weren't a lot of resources at that time. Veterans in farming was kind of a new thing, and FVC really pushed that to the forefront and helped kind of educate the public and raise awareness for the uniqueness of veterans for farming, both as a benefit for the veterans themselves, but also for their local communities. So I hope to continue working with both organizations, but if you have not gotten involved with them, I highly recommend reach out. If you don't hear back, reach out again. Sometimes you have to reach out a few times just because everybody's so busy. But I did want to talk to you guys today just a little bit about my personal story. I know I've talked to a lot of people through AgrAbility, just talking about my farm journey, but today's a little bit different. I'm actually going to be coming from the background of before I got involved in farming, actually years before that when I got out of the military, and really struggled readjusting, struggled with PTSD. So this is for everybody, but I mean, there's a special, I think, message for other veterans who may be experiencing some of the same symptoms that I have had. I know it's a huge struggle. I think it's very common to feel like you're the only one that's dealing with everything, that this is something you can never get through. Your life is over as you know it. And it can be a real scary time. And I just encourage you guys, listen to what I have to say, try and take some of the words and believe it, even if you don't feel it. And then move forward and reach out to someone. There's a lot of organizations, AgrAbility, FVC, but also other VA outreach centers that are open to working with you. Sometimes it's just a matter of talking to people, meeting other veterans who have been through the same things, and it can change your life. So sometimes you just got to put yourself out there. So anywho, I guess I'll go ahead and start. I will start my slides as well. I think I will. Well, maybe I won't. Let's see. Oh, no. What have I done? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start talking, and then I'll let Paul see if he can figure out. No, this right here. So I want these pictures out. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I am new to agriculture, as in I did not come from a family that was involved with farming. I didn't have any exposure to 4-H or anything like that. I grew up in Michigan. After high school, I went to college and became a nurse and spent a few years working as a nurse after school. I actually graduated in 2001, and like most of you, watched in horror at 9/11. And over the next couple years, just felt this huge burden for those who are serving in the military. I felt a calling to serve my country, but more than that, I felt a calling to take care of the people who were fighting on the front lines. And so I went to a recruiter and joined the Air Force, and shortly after that went off to training. And nursing is one of those unique MOSs where you get deployed pretty quickly after you go in there. So shortly after that training, I was deployed as a surgery and trauma nurse. I ended up being part of a mobile forward surgical team. And I came back from that deployment after getting hurt and ended up over the next few months getting a medical retirement from the military. I was diagnosed with PTSD after everything that happened. And at that time, I had lost my military support system and was kind of on my own. I don't know why these pictures aren't going. And I just wanted to talk about some of what it was like going through PTSD at that point. I think it's really important to talk about it, to normalize it, and to really help people to understand what it's like as a veteran. So when I first came home, one of the things I remember most is that nothing really felt real. It was interesting watching everybody go on around you, but I just wanted to scream at everybody and be like, how can you keep going on with your life after everything that's happened? And like nothing's going on, people are dying, like war is going on. It was such a big change from deployment and from military time. It felt like nobody understood that. I had a lot of problems sleeping. Every night I'd go to bed and I'd relive things and I'd think about it and I'd go over like, I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that, like if only I had done this. And that is, I think, something that's very common. And it can, I mean, years and decades. I had a lot of anxiety. I don't know if any of you guys have had panic attacks, but when I would have a panic attack, it would be, I couldn't breathe. I would feel like I was going to throw up. I couldn't talk. It was just very scary for me, but it was also very, I think, confusing for people around. It got to the point where I felt like I couldn't go outside of the house because I was afraid if something happened. You know, people, you can't really tell people what's going on. And so people get scared and call 911, and that's really embarrassing. And just the everyday living was just really, really hard to do. And I remember during that time, sometimes I'd take sleeping pills at like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I just couldn't handle another minute. I mean, it was really hard, but I always said, okay, tomorrow's a new day. So I will try that. Luckily, I got married and I had a couple friends from the military who understood that, who really helped me work through some of that stuff. My husband was a pilot, and so we socialized a lot. And so that meant going out in bigger groups. There was a lot of going out and drinking, and that became something that was like a coping mechanism for me, because I was anxious going out. So I would drink before, I would drink during, I would drink after. And I think things got to a point where it was like, I was so overwhelmed and so I hated going out so much that you get to a point and you're just like, well, screw it. Like, I know it's not a matter of if I'm going to get hurt again, it's going to be a matter of when I get hurt. And so at that point, I kind of swung the pendulum and I became very reckless. Again, the drinking became a bigger deal. I started like just doing anything without a care. I had struggled with depression at that time too. I just remember, I mean, still I can remember that every day waking up and the sun would come through and I would just be angry that I had to go through another day. I had problems with like interacting with people. I wasn't holding down a job very well. I was in and out. And the main thing, I just felt very disconnected from who I was. I kept trying to figure out how to get back to the person that I was before and trying to make my life fit into that narrative about what I had planned everything to be and what everything I thought was going to be. And it didn't work. You know, you become that square peg in that circle. You can't fit that back in once it's out. I had a hard time figuring out any future, and life just became so overwhelming, and I became suicidal. I actually, probably over a 4-year period, I was hospitalized in 5 different psychiatric hospitals. I spent close to a year's worth of time during that period, just getting a lot of counseling, meeting other veterans through the VA programs, talking about things, learning coping mechanisms, learning how to be okay with my feelings, process them, and then be able to put them aside and move forward. So after probably about 4 years, I got to the point where things were going well. I had started working again. I was no longer having to take psych medications. I actually started going back to school, got my master's in nursing, and things were going really well. And I felt like I was beginning to see, you know, this new life. It was very, something that was very healing to me was going out on the water. We lived in Florida, and being out in nature. And so that was kind of like my first little foray into the power of nature to heal. Unfortunately, my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer at age 34. And once again, our life was turned upside down. And we both dove right into researching, you know, what we could do to improve his health. We started learning about nutrition and the power of food in healing. We changed our diet. We learned about organic food. We actually started going to farmers markets, which I had never been to before that. We started talking to other farmers. We started then visiting these farms, and it just connected with both of us. And we would talk and drive around, especially after his treatments. We'd drive around for hours just looking at different pieces of land and dreaming about, you know, where we were going to start his life after the treatments and then after his retirement, because he only had a few years left. And unfortunately, he ended up dying in 2011. And that was a huge blow again. Kind of, again, I had a whole nother set of a life that I wanted to live, and that was taken away. And you think about, you know, the loss of a significant other, and you have the loss of that person, but you also have the loss of, you know, every piece of your life and every dream that you had and all your plans. And so it's once again kind of brought the PTSD back to the forefront. It wasn't as bad because I had a lot of tools to be able to deal with that kind of stuff, and a lot of resources through the VA and also some community counseling. But it was a huge blow. And I tried going back to work, back into nursing, and I spent a couple weeks, and my memory was just terrible, and there was just so much I couldn't concentrate. And I got to the point one day I ended up marking and prepping a patient for surgery on the wrong leg. And I knew that it was supposed to be the left leg, but I couldn't even tell what the difference between the right leg and the left leg was. It was just very muddied in my head. And I left for lunch break, and I left the hospital and I never came back. I never went back to surgery. And so I was back at home and kind of just laying on the couch for months and months. And the only thing that really gave me any type of hope was getting books from the library on farming and agriculture. Like that was something that still kind of whispered to me, like, you know, this is something that's special that you should follow up on. And about 6 months after my husband died, my sister called me and was like, you know, what are you going to do with your life? You know, you have to do something. And I told her, I just want to buy some land out in the middle of nowhere and just run away from everything. And so that's exactly what I did. So I actually went online and started looking at properties in Indiana, which is where my sister and her family lived. And I found a farm. They actually wanted to move out with me. And it was a foreclosure. And I remember calling the real estate lady and saying, you know, I want to put an offer on this land. And she's like, but you haven't even seen it. And I was like, I know, but I just feel like it's the right place for me. And so I put an offer on, and then it took months before I heard back from the bank. But I finally got the word that they had accepted my offer and that I closed in 2 weeks. So I packed up my life in Florida and moved to Indiana. I didn't really have a plan for anything, but I moved in and just fell in love with the land and all the possibilities that were there. But it was also overwhelming. I'm like, how do you even start? So probably 2 months after I got there, I went to Tractor Supply and they had baby chicks for sale. And so I picked 5 chicks out and took them back home and read everything about how to care for chickens. And that was kind of the beginning of animals on the farm. And then I also ordered 30 fruit trees and planted those because I knew they take so long to get established. So I got those in there, and then I think like 100 raspberries and blackberries, and my family came out and helped me plant that. And then I ended up getting a job as a case manager for an insurance company. And so I did that during the day and then worked on the farm at night. And that was pretty much my first year. It was just taking care of you know, the animals that I had. I ended up buying a few bottle babies, lamb bottle babies off of Craigslist. And I had them on my back porch and fed them and loved them. And it was just, they were just so sweet. And it was such a huge, something to look forward to when I came home from work. And just recently, they passed away, the different animals, but they were a huge part of this farm. And I think every single sheep that I have on the farm, which is like 40 right now, have come from those 3 animals. I have changed the rams a few times, but so it's kind of interesting seeing that grow. But one thing that I did during this time, this first year when I was working, was research online for any information about veterans in agriculture or how do you learn how to farm. And that information is out there now, but back when I started looking, it was really hard to find that information. I know I looked at Purdue and they, you know, were the top land grant university for agriculture. And I thought this is my ticket, but then I looked and small scale farming was not something that they really branched out in at that time. But over the next few years, when I first got started, they've actually brought that in and then realized, you know, how this is such a big movement, kind of shrinking the family farms and getting people onto smaller acreages and smaller scale raising of plants and animals. So another thing that I found online was NCAT and ATRA was offering this new program, and it was called Arm to Farm. And it was a program that brought in military veterans who were interested in learning about agriculture. So these are people that didn't really have experience in that. So I actually had to drive down to Arkansas, and I was scared to death. And I remember the first day there were probably 30 veterans and spouses in the auditorium. And I remember us going around and we all introduced ourselves and talked a little bit about what we had done in the military and what our dreams were for farming and for agriculture. And everybody was talking, and I felt for the first time in, almost 10 years, I felt a connection again with other people who had experienced a lot of the same things that I had, and then had the same hope for farming and small scale agriculture and wanted to get their hands dirty. And I left that training program with a totally new outlook on life. I knew I wanted to go home. I wanted to start farming full time, and I knew I wanted to do outreach for veterans. So I immediately, when I got home, I started reaching out to our community resources, so the NRCS and the SWCD, and to find out what resources there were. I connected with people through that, and then through AgrAbility with Cindy, and then with the FVC, and started learning about how other people were doing things, how I could set up my farm, the things that I needed to do. I signed up for my first farmers market in our community, and went to that with just some meat bird chickens and eggs, and then my mom made cookies because my parents had ended up moving in and helping me with everything. And so they were instrumental at the beginning, learning everything and helping build up the farm. That one farmer's market that first year, the second year, I added more sheep, I added turkeys and ducks, and then started growing a lot more vegetables, started selling fruit. And I really did a huge push to get my name out in the community, and started going to 5 different farmers markets, which is way too many for one person to do. So I wouldn't recommend it, but it was a great way for me to learn to talk with people in the community, to share some of my story, for them to get excited about the farm and the things that I was growing. And you don't realize it as it happens, but you start building this community and this support system around you. And I will honestly say that farming has helped me to create this family and these friendships that are very similar to military relationships, where they will take you, through your life, and they've got your back. So that is a huge kind of bonus for doing the farm, but also to help me grow as a person. So that is a little bit about me. So the farm now, it's 45 acres. I have a menagerie of animals, a lot of different variety in fruits and vegetables. So I have, I think, 19 cattle right now on the farm, and then probably 100 chickens, 20 ducks, and I think 6 beehives. We raise shiitake mushrooms. We do have the orchard, and then about an acre of vegetables. And I now, it's a lot of work, but I now look forward to farmers markets, to going out and meeting these customers in the community that have really, a lot of them have been with me, for 5, 6, 7 years, from the beginning. And it's exciting to go and talk to them. It's exhausting, but it definitely has given me a new purpose for my life. I feel like this is a great way that I can give back to my community. But also, it's a huge way for me to continue healing and to find joy in my life. So I know people always ask, why veterans in agriculture? So this is just my personal feeling. I'm sure there's lots of different reasons and benefits for that. But I think farming and nature and working with animals and plants, it's just a place of healing, especially when you have that disconnect, which can happen a lot of times with deployments or with the military, where you feel like, there's the community, and then there's military, and then there's yourself. And sometimes you don't know really where you belong. Another benefit is, it's sometimes hard to do that 9-to-5 job. It's hard to go into an office. It's hard to sit and do those boring jobs. It's sometimes, when you have physical issues or mental issues that come up, it's very hard to sometimes keep those traditional jobs. And agriculture can really be a job that offers flexibility. I know when things get real bad, like your animals will be okay, your crops will be okay, as long as you're providing the food and water. And that's another huge benefit, is you've got people that are relying on you. Your animals, if you don't water them or you don't feed them, they will not survive. And so you don't have a choice to kind of get into that spiral down, because there's people that are relying on you. The military is all about a mission. And it's, I think, hard when you come home to not really know what your purpose is anymore. It's not as clear as it was in the mission. Everybody knew what what your goals were. But with farming, your new mission is to provide that food either for your family or for your community. And it's, again, a great way to reconnect with your community. I think I always encourage people, even if they're super nervous about going out in the public, like farmers markets are a great way to kind of ease into that. Because while there are a lot of people around, like everybody's really excited about food, they're really excited to talk to you about what you do on the farm. There's just something, I think, intrinsic to each of us that nature and farming are an interest, and even people that are not interested in farming and never want to do that still love to read about that, or love to hear about, how you raise animals and how food is actually grown. Another thing is an increased interest in natural healing. I think a lot of veterans who go to the VA have been prescribed a lot of medications, and it seems sometimes that's the quick Band-Aid fix. And there's a lot of alternative therapies and things you can do in addition to the traditional therapies, and natural healing is some of that, where you're looking at herbs and different types of activities, even something as simple as, therapy with animals, horse therapy, or with miniature cows, or little chickens. Like, those are all things that can help promote healing. So I would be remiss in talking about the farm and all the benefits of the farm and how amazing it is without talking about some of the struggles. So one thing we know is farming is not easy. So I always, talk to people and they're so excited right in the beginning, like, I want to farm, farming's amazing, it's going to be all like green pastures everywhere and flowers everywhere, and the animals will run around and sing songs to you. And I mean, there are times of that. And I will tell you, like, the farm is my place of happiness, and I feel all those feelings. But when you're running a farm as a job or as a business, it can be really stressful. There's a lot of work. And when I say a lot of work, there's a lot of hot work. It happens to come in the summer, the majority of it, and it's just hot, it's dirty, animals stink, and you learn that no matter what you do, you don't have a lot of control over anything. Mother Nature, you're at her mercy, whether that's a tornado coming and taking out your barns, or animals becoming sick, or your vegetables getting diseased. There's just a lot of ups and downs. I mean, sometimes it's like in the day, you're like the highest high, and then you're the lowest low. Death happens on the farm. You lose animals and things that are really important to you. So those are just important things to know. I personally feel like it's totally worth it, but definitely go in with your eyes open, because pictures are not a reality. It's a lot less glamorous than what you see in any pictures. I know my sister, one time she went on Facebook and she's like, everybody thinks your farm is so beautiful and it's such a great life. And she's like, if only they knew what was outside that picture. And she's like, sometimes I look at those pictures and I'm like, that doesn't even look like the farm, you know, and you laugh, but it's true. I mean, it can sometimes be messy and chaos and stressful. You have to learn to kind of roll with the punches. But my personal opinion, I think if I was to do it all over and if I could contain myself, I think the best thing for most people is just to do a backyard farm. You know, whether that's if you're in an apartment, getting some pots and learning to grow things and then learning to cook those things. It could be getting an animal or two or some chickens, maybe a beehive, like starting small and kind of creating as you get control, as you get comfortable and learn kind of what your tolerance level is, I think is important. I know a lot of you guys have families and children and jobs, and farming on the side, you know, can be a struggle with that. So I personally, if I was to start all over, I would have a 1-acre farm and just, I think I would have like 10 chickens and maybe a cow and a few things like that. But bigger is not always better. So just be careful, especially if you have PTSD or physical limitations. Don't build your farm so that it contributes to increased stress in your mental health, because that is what you need to protect. Let me see how much time. I think we're still okay. But just a few thoughts I had that I wanted to share about mental health and kind of military things, which I think are really good for especially professionals who are dealing with or working with veterans. I found on the VA website a while ago that 50% of people will experience a significant trauma in their lifetime. 50%. So look at the person next to you, and chances are that either you or the person next to you are going to experience a significant trauma. And in 10% of those in men and 20% of those in females will go on to have PTSD. Those numbers are huge. And I think in a weird way, it can be a little bit encouraging because it helps you to feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, this is a normal experience. This is something your body and your mind reacts to this way. It's not because you've done something wrong. It's just the things that you've had to go through. Obviously, military experiences increases the likelihood that you'll have trauma exposures. I think we all know other veterans who have gone through, you know, significant traumas. And I look at other people and I'm like, you know, they've gone through so much more, and look at me and like, I can't even get my life together. But it's really important that we stop comparing the traumas that we've been to and how we're reacting to other people. We're all so different. We all have such different experiences. We have different support systems. We are physically different. It's just not helpful for any of us to make those judgments. Another thing is even non-combat experiences can be traumatic. You know, things we don't think about in the military and we don't really give enough credit to is the stress that comes from just regular military life and deployments. There's such a huge stress put on families when military members are going to trainings or going to deployments. And then when they come home, just that adjustment period of learning to communicate again, learning to kind of deal with how you have personally changed as a person and how that family unit looks again. A lot of things that can come out of that stress are divorce, infidelity, domestic violence, and all of those things are increased in our military populations. Another significant issue that I think the military has really tried to deal with in the last 5-10 years is the stress that comes when you leave the military. It can be very traumatic for a lot of people, just losing that support system. In training, they're really good at breaking you down as an individual and then bringing you together as a group. And so when you leave that, while you may, want to move on from the military, it can be an adjustment. And I think you can lose your sense of that common mission and kind of what your purpose is in life. I think it's very complicated. Sometimes the conflicting feelings that you have about war, about politics, the role of the military, like these are all natural and normal, but they can be very stressful. I continue to hear or read stories about veterans who are still struggling with PTSD and with continuing effects of their military service. And I think it's really, really important that we continue to provide support for those that we've served with. And so I say, what are some of the ways that we can do to support veterans in mental health? The main thing is obviously veteran outreach. We have to go out there and sometimes meet veterans where they're at. Bring those veterans into your circle. They may not be people that you would normally be drawn to, but you guys share an experience that a lot of people don't. And then following that, show compassion to those you don't understand. I think this is really important because you can't see what's going on in other people's lives. We all put up this great facade of how our life is going. We put pictures up on the farm or how great, when we go out for dinners and that kind of stuff. And it looks like we have everything together. And when you peel back those layers, you realize, wow, these people have been through some serious issues. I struggled with PTSD, and I think most people, especially now, would never know, I think, how deep things got and how difficult they were. And I was the kind of person where I covered things up and I always had that smile on my face, and I couldn't, no matter how hard I wanted to, I couldn't tell anybody that I was dying inside. And I just needed somebody to come to me and say, are you okay? And talk to me and make that okay, to kind of bring up that conversation. So you can be that person. So along with that, don't be afraid to ask direct questions of veterans. Like I said, some are expert chameleons. Sometimes you have to ask the really uncomfortable, hard questions where you're like, I don't want to offend them and ask them. I don't want to, make them think something that they weren't thinking before, think that they're weak. Like there's 100 ways you can talk yourself out of directly questioning veterans about their mental health. But you got to realize sometimes, like, there isn't time. Like, we don't know what people are thinking. We don't know, how our lives are going to turn out. So make yourself vulnerable. Ask the people you're around. Let them know that, you're their wingman or you got their six. Like, those are things you'll never regret. In addition, there's things that you can't handle as either a friend or you personally. So there are professionals that are out there. Don't be afraid. I know the VA gets a lot of bad rap and some of it is justified. But I will tell you from personal experience, the VA programs that I went to and the professionals that I spoke with, they saved my life and they helped me to find joy again. And I did not like it. And when I was in it, I thought it was terrible. And so you may not understand everything that the VA does or mental health professionals, but keep with it. And don't be afraid to go with somebody, to reach out. That's what I always say. Don't tell somebody to go get counseling, like actually go with them. Sometimes it's just taking that first step and breaking down the walls. Another important thing, we need to start celebrating the achievements of other veterans. I think similar to like small businesses, it's a small community and we need to be promoting each other. We need to be making connections with people, helping connect people to whether that's business connections, whether that's personal connections, whether that's helping veterans to get connected to things like fitness organizations, veteran service organizations. There's so many different types of veteran outreach organizations that are out there. And it's just finding that one that fits you and that helps you to create that circle and that family. And then it's just get out there and get involved and find that community. So like I said, it's really scary to put yourself out there. It's really scary to be vulnerable with people. But I think you'd be surprised at how much people want to help, how much support you can get, and how much really your life will change once you find your community. I know it's pretty common when I talk, a lot of people ask about what types of resources there are for veterans in agriculture. And just some of the quick ones off the top of my head, AgrAbility we talked about. If you reach out to Cindy, who's the veterans coordinator, she actually has a newsletter with a listing of a lot of the common veteran service organizations, the agricultural related organizations, like all those names and numbers that you need to know. The Farmer Veteran Coalition, same thing. They can give you a lot of the national programs. They can direct you to some of the people who might have the more local community connections. NCAT and ATRA is continuing to do their program called the Arm to Farm. And that is a program it's offered all over the country. And it doesn't matter where you're located, as long as you can get to the location, they pay for everything, including your hotel, your meals, your training. And it is an invaluable program, if not just for the training, but for the connections that you're going to make with other veterans and other farmers. I always like to push the NRCS and SWCD, so the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Everybody has a local office. Some are better resources than others, but especially for small scale farming, this is the main place that you're going to find financial assistance. So they have a program called EQIP. It's an environmental quality incentives something program, I think. But it is a cost share program that if you're really creative in how you build your farm, you can use those resources to get monies to build improvements and to help you grow better product in a way that really focuses on conservation, taking care of the animals, taking care of the land, protecting our waters, you know, things that veterans for the most part are really, really interested in. And if you have an NRCS office that you're not making headway with, there are veteran coordinators in a lot of the states that you can reach out to. So I always encourage you, like, look online, look at those resources, especially for the EQIP program. There's actually guidelines on the internet and they're terrible to read, but you can go through and highlight all the different practices that they actually give compensation for and give cost share for. So that is a huge, huge, huge program. Another one is the Va Voc Rehab. And I know that's kind of a mixed bag for a lot of people, but the Voc Rehab offers an educational track where they will help pay for schooling. And so that might allow you to take some college classes. I know I personally went to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, so UMass Amherst, to their online school. I think it's the sustainability studies, but you can actually take classes. I think they're like 8 or 12 weeks long on things like keeping chickens or raising pigs or soil management, organic growing of vegetables. I mean, you name it, like anything that's homesteading or small scale farming, they have classes on it. And so that's great. Or they take the GI Bill if you have any time for that. Those are great things to do during the winter or when you're first thinking about farming. But I continue to do that and learn more, you know, about some of the animals in different kind of ways to make my farm better. And then again, any local veteran organization that gets you involved. Put yourself out there. Ask questions. If you're not getting the answers that you need, move to someone else and ask again. But I would definitely suggest, you know, use your resources, keep trying, keep pushing. And I know early on after my husband died, I found this picture online, and it's this girl, you don't even see her face. This girl holding this piece of paper, and on it, it says, "There is hope." And I don't know why it touched me so much, but I printed it and put it all over my house. And to this day, like, that picture makes me cry because it literally made me realize that, like, there is something I can move forward. I can move out of this. Like, my life is not over. It's changed, but there is hope. Like, no matter where you're at in your life. So that is all I have. But if you guys have any questions, I'm super happy to answer any of those. I'll see if I can get my pictures rolling on the farm stuff. But if not, you can always go on to my Facebook page. It's Blue Yonder Organic Farms. You can contact me by email. If you don't get a response, I would definitely say keep pushing, because I'm super busy and I'm not real good at always doing emails and phone calls. But if you push and contact me enough, I promise I will get back to you. But again, thank you to all you guys for coming and listening to this. And thank you to AgrAbility and FVC for all the work that they do with veterans and for giving us this opportunity today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get there.
Pictures one of mine.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
Sure, speakers off, you're gonna echo.
There we go.
Is it sharing now?
Thanks, Sarah. As you guys can all tell, it's a very personal story with Sarah, and she reluctantly agreed to do this for us. You know, I bug her all the time because I think her story is so powerful and is a learning tool for you providers out there, those that deal with farmers and veterans and those with disabilities, as well as it's an inspiration to our veterans that have PTSD or just want to start a farm. So I thank you a lot for digging in deep for this, and I know how hard it is for you, so I appreciate it. You know, she talks about giving back to other veterans, and she does. She gave me my first 6 chickens, and now I have 100. So, you know, the chicken obsession is real and it's addictive. And I appreciate that. There's a lot of people that have made comments in the chat if you want to look at those and see what they've said about you, and thanking you for your service as well as the talk that you've given today. So if any of you want to email me too for questions that you might have, you can do that. I want to thank both Jeannette and Sara for participating today. I do want to put a shout out to an AgrAbility workshop that we're having in Billings, Montana, August 9th through 11th. Tess, tell me if I'm wrong on those dates. 9th through 11th. So if you live in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, or Wyoming, we have some travel funds that we can pay for you to attend our workshop. So please let us know and we can get you, but you need to let us know pretty quickly because it's only a couple weeks away. So if you're interested in attending our workshop, let us know and I will send you all the information. We have a question. Are there possible opportunities to mentor other veterans at your farm, creating an outreach and education and hope building program together? Chairs.
All right. Okay, it's Sara here. So yeah, I have done some training programs on the farm. And recently it got to a point where I was just not having veterans who were interested in coming out, but that is kind of my passion. So if there are people that want mentorship, that are interested in coming out, that is definitely something I'd be interested in doing. I know we this last year started a veteran farm that was donated about 10 minutes from my house, and we were able to partner with AgrAbility on doing some internships there. And so if you're in Indiana especially, I would contact Cindy, but definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to have people out on the farm. I actually really like teaching people because I love the farm. And I guess I don't have anything formal right now, but if enough people were interested in that, I'm super happy to do, you know, a week or two or, you know, training program with multiple veterans or having someone come out and do an internship. So just get in touch with me.
There's another, somebody in South Florida would love to partner. Send me your information and we'll see what we can do. Okay, I don't see any other questions. There's a lot of comments that we'll let Sara read.
Don't you have a meeting coming up in Florida?
We do have the
FAM, Florida Ag and
Hello.
Florida A&M.
Florida A&M.
Hello.
hello. Yes.
Hi. I'm wanting to get the email. I'm not for sure if I'm speaking to Sara or Jeannette. I just needed the email for the workshop that's going to be held the 9th through 11th. Who is the email contact person?
It's me, Cindy, to everyone. I'm going to put that in the chat box. So any of you that are interested in attending that workshop in that meeting in Montana, email me. And I'm putting that in.
If you could, I'm unfortunately, I'm not on Zoom, so if we can have it otherwise.
Yeah, it's CHASTAI, the number 1 at PURDUE.edu.
And if you could,
CHASTAI1 at Purdue.edu.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have. So Tess, you are there? Do I need to share the screen with you, or do you?
I am all set. I've got
Okay.
our slide up there. So I just want to thank everybody, Cindy and Jeanette, and especially Sara for sharing with us today. Sara, there were tons of comments in there thanking you for your service and your courage to share your story. So thank you very much. If everyone could go to the chat box and follow the link to the survey, so you can do an evaluation on today's session, that would be helpful. There will be a recording of this session on the National AgrAbility website in a few days. You can use this same Zoom link you used today for all of our upcoming Tuesday sessions. Next week's session is celebrating Veteran Total Farmer Health, and that will also be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions about our Tuesday sessions, feel free to contact me. And my email is there on the screen, or you can also contact Cindy with the email that she put in the chat box and she can forward it to me. So thank you very much. I will stay on in case people need to reach that link in the chat box. But other than that, thank you everyone for joining us today.